Hello everyone, welcome to Medjo Notes. In last video we completed about the peptic ulcer. Today we are going to see about the mechanism of the emetic reflex or vomiting reflex. Okay. First we'll try to understand the diagram. We have vomiting center which is present in the medulla. This vomiting center contains muscarinic receptors. Okay. Here, vomiting center is present in the medulla oblongata. It contains muscarinic receptors, and when these receptors are stimulated, vomiting reflex takes place. Near to the vomiting center, there is a trigger zone named as chemoreceptor trigger zone. This zone contains 5-HT, 5 histamine receptors and dopamine receptors. Okay, so this chemoreceptor trigger zone is presented outside the blood-brain barrier. Okay, so it is easily what do you say? The cytotoxic agents is easily permeable to this chemoreceptor trigger zone. So when cytotoxic substances stimulate the chemoreceptor trigger zone, so the signals are transmitted through the dopamine receptor and 5-histamine receptor to the muscarinic receptors present in the vomiting center, and hence vomiting reflex takes place. Okay. In case of motion sickness, labyrinth of the ear is being stimulated. Okay, so from there through the vestibular cochlear nerve, it stimulates the histamine receptor and muscarinic receptors present in the vestibular nuclei, and from vestibular nuclei it reaches the chemoreceptor trigger zone through 5 histamine receptors and dopamine receptors present in the CTZ, and from there it reaches the vomiting center through the muscarinic receptors present in the vomiting center, and therefore vomiting reflex takes place. Okay, this is one mechanism. Then from stomach contains enterochromaffin cells. Okay, when cytotoxic agents stimulate the enterochromaffin cells, so these cells are stimulated here. 5-HT receptors, I mean through 5 histamine receptors are being stimulated, and through vagus nerve, which is nothing but a sensory, it reaches the vomiting center in the medulla oblongata and it stimulates the vomiting reflex. This is one mechanism. Then we have higher center, from higher center brain center, such as emotional factors such as pain, repulsive smell, repulsive sight. All these factors also stimulate the higher center in the brain, which triggers the vomiting center through the signals leading to the vomiting reflex. Okay, so these are the five mechanisms, main mechanisms, which stimulate the vomiting center present in the medulla oblongata, and it leads to emetic reflex or vomiting reflex. So we will revise one time. First, we have chemoreceptor trigger zone, which is present outside the blood-brain barrier, and it is permeable to cytotoxic agents during chemotherapy. So through 5 histamine receptors and dopamine receptors, it stimulates the muscarinic receptors present in the vomiting center, and it stimulates the emetic reflex. Any problem in the labyrinth of the ear, such as motion sickness, in the case of motion sickness, vestibulocochlear nerve is stimulated, and through this nerve, it is the vestibular nuclei, and these histamine receptors and muscarinic receptors are being stimulated, and it touches the chemoreceptor trigger zone, and this zone stimulates the vomiting center, which leads to the emetic reflex. Then we have higher brain center, such as emotional factors such as pain, repulsive smell, repulsive sight. All these factors also stimulate the vomiting center, which leads to the emetic reflex. Then we have in stomach. In stomach, we have enterochromaffin cells. In case of chemotherapy, cytotoxic agents are being stimulated, and these 5-HT receptors send signals through the vagus nerve to the vomiting center present in the medulla oblongata, and it stimulates the vomiting reflex. So these are the five main mechanisms which stimulate the emetic reflex. That's all for this video. These are the small notes I have written for the emetic reflex, and drugs emetics and anti-emetics drugs, we'll see in the next video. So I have attached this PDF in a Telegram link, and that I have given the Telegram link in the description box. Thank you.